Hello and welcome back. Today's video is going to be my top 10 colorful eyeshadow palettes. I absolutely love colorful eyeshadow, although today I'm not wearing colorful eyeshadow, but I have worn some pretty bright looks in my last couple videos. These palettes are not necessarily rainbow palettes. Some of them are, but some of them are just colorful, so they can be monochromatic. Basically a palette that is not just full of a bunch of neutrals, taupes, browns. I think you get my point. I have done videos on my top 10 neutral palettes. I've done my top 5 bottom 5 palettes. I've ranked all my eyeshadow palettes. I've also done a video on the best half colorful, half neutral palettes, so I will link those videos if you want to see more. These are in no particular order. And also I did do a video all about rainbow palettes. So some of these were in that video, some were not. And yeah, let's just get into it. Alrighty, first two are these from Colourpop. I have 3 of these monochromatic palettes from Colourpop. The other one I have is the Going Coconuts, but I don't have any of the other ones. A lot of them had pressed glitters, which is why I personally avoided them, but these two are amazing and I really do love them. The first one is the Lilac You A Lot. I think this is great color selection because you do get some lilac shades, you get a pink, but you do also get 2 darker purples. So I think this one is very versatile and you can do a lot of beautiful looks. So if you're looking for some purpley lilac shades, I definitely would recommend this one. The next one is the Mint to Be. I've done a separate review and tutorial on this if you do want to hear more about this palette. I like this one as well, and I think that the quality is the same between them. I will say that the shimmers, like a lot of the Colourpop shimmers, I definitely have to use a wet brush, otherwise there's a lot of fallout, but I absolutely love this color story as well, although I will say I don't think this one is as versatile. It's much more monochromatic. I feel like most looks I do with this palette kind of all look the same. And even though these 2 shades look darker, on the eye, they appear much lighter than they do in the pan. So this palette definitely lacks some depth. And I did talk about that in my review. I still think it is beautiful and I love minty eyeshadow, but also I'm not wearing minty eyeshadows as much as I probably do wear purples. So I've gotten more use out of this one than this one. So, you know, that is something to keep in mind. With these monochromatic palettes, if it's not something that you would wear a lot, you know, you may be better off just buying like a single mint eyeshadow. But personally, I really do like these and I think they are beautiful and great quality. Next up are the Juvia's Place mini palettes. These are 6-pan palettes that are $15, a little bit more expensive, but I love the Juvia's formula. Their metallic shades are out of this world and amazing. I have done a separate video on these as well, so you can check those out for more. The Berries, this one is so beautiful. I love this one, and I will say that unlike the Colourpop Mint palette, this does have more variety and some depth. It's not quite as monochromatic. You do get some pink. This red is amazing. It's one of my favorite eyeshadows ever. You get these kind of darker berry browns. This one is gorgeous. I really love it. And again, it's the usual Juvia's formula, which I love. And then the other one is the Violets. This is pretty unique in my collection. I don't have a lot of eyeshadows that are in this color story. It's truly violet and it's definitely more cool toned. I think this is different enough than the Lilac You A Lot. Let me just show you side by side because I definitely don't think that they are identical. Yeah, as you can tell, this is true kind of violet shades. These have some more pink in them. So yeah, and this is more cool toned. So personally for me, I think these are different enough. But again, you know, with these monochromatic palettes, I would say if it's not something you're gonna wear a lot, it may not be worth it. But I really love both of these. Quality is amazing. And yeah, even though these are a little bit more expensive, I think for Juvia's, because they are only 6 pans, they are really nice quality. And I do think that the variety in here is a little bit better than some of these Colourpop palettes. This next palette definitely is a rainbow palette. This is the Carity 21 Matte. This is a really great palette for me to have in my collection because if there's ever a matte colorful eyeshadow that I need for a specific look, this is the palette that I go to. There are a few neutrals thrown in here as well. And again, this is a one where I usually do use this with other palettes, but you obviously can do an all matte look with it. This formula is a bit more sheer and it takes a bit more building, which I think for such bright colors is actually okay and I don't mind. I don't hear many people talk about this brand. This palette I think is $29 and they have some other palettes with gorgeous color stories. So yeah, I think this, if you are a colorful rainbow lover, but you don't want the craziest, most pigmented rainbow eyeshadows, I do think that this would be a good one to start with because it's a little easier to work with. I will say some really, really pigmented, colorful eyeshadows can be a bit too much for me. But yeah, I think this is easier to work with. I can build them up. And often I do use this as a companion to some other palettes, but yeah, I think this, you definitely have a lot of color variety. Next up is the Juvia's Place, the Zulu palette. This is absolutely amazing. This one is more of a rainbow palette, but I love the quality on this palette. These metallic shades are beautiful. You get this gorgeous turquoise, purple, pink, yellow, orange. There is a brown, I will say. I don't know that to me it makes a lot of sense to have a brown with such colorful eyeshadows, but a lot of people do like that to kind of darken up the outer corner. But I will say when I darken up a colorful look, I usually pick like a darker colorful shade or a black. I don't know, sometimes brown mixed in with colors can get a little muddy, at least for me, but again, I'm not super skilled. But this one is easy to work with, very high quality, and yeah, this is one of the best rainbow palettes that I've ever tried. This next palette, it does have a few neutrals in it, but the majority of it is more colorful, which is why I'm including it in this video. This is a somewhat newer palette to my collection. I've just gotten it in the last month and a half, the BH Avocado Toast, but I am so in love with it. This formula is fantastic. Obviously, there is a lot of green in this palette. You do have a few more neutral shades like this color, this one, and this one, but the majority of it I think is pretty colorful, and these are really easy to work with. This palette is just, it's so easy to use. The metallics are so foiled. I don't even need a wet brush. The mattes blend very well, and yeah, it's awfully reflective, hard to see, but this is a gorgeous palette, a lot of variety in the greens. So I think if you're a green eyeshadow palette lover or a green eyeshadow lover and you don't want to spend a lot of money, you know, this is $16. I think this is well worth it. Formula wise, this is one of the best here. I think this is an amazing formula. I like this more than the Colourpop formula. And I would say I like it about equally to Juvia's Place. So yeah, this one is fantastic. Next up is the Glam Caliente palette. Now this brand is definitely known for their food themed palettes, but out of their selection, this is the one that spoke to me the most, and I really love the colors in here. These metallics are very foiled. I will say, I reviewed this when I first got it, and I talked about that the mattes in this, they need some building. It's a little bit like that Carroty palette where they're a little bit more on the sheer side, but again, for bright colors, I do think that that makes it a little easier to work with, especially for those of us that are not, you know, experts. But I love the color story. I love the pink and the gold and the blues. This is just a really beautiful palette. And I don't mind that the mattes need a little bit of building just because that makes them a little bit easier to work with in my opinion. And yeah, this one I will say it's pretty colorful and it is a bit more of a rainbow palette, but it's maybe like a subdued rainbow palette because these are not really like, they're not neon bright colors. They are colorful, but a bit more subdued. And I think that's nice. I think this is a really nice color story. Really like the quality of it. This palette is about $30. I got it with a coupon code sometime this summer, but yeah, this one is beautiful. Alrighty, 2 palettes left on the list and the BH Weekend Festival. I can't not talk about this palette. It is still to date one of the best colorful eyeshadow palettes I've ever tried. I reviewed this when it first came out. It's not available anymore, but they do have like another version of it, like the Something Else Festival palette. I'm not sure. Similar color story, but not exactly the same. The quality is amazing. These mattes, these are definitely more pigmented than the ones from Glam or Carity, but they're really easy to work with. And the shimmers are very metallic. I don't need a wet brush. Again, BH Cosmetics, seriously, their eyeshadow formula is one of the best I've tried. I love Colourpop, but I think their formula is better than Colourpop. It's easier to work with, and the shimmers don't have as much fallout. Gorgeous color story. This one does have a few neutral shades in it. You know, there are a couple browns in here, but for the most part, it's pretty bright. And yes, this one is a little bit older in my collection now. I've had it for several years, but it still works perfectly. Alrighty, and last up is a palette I know I've talked about a lot on my channel as well, and that is the Ace Beaute Slice of Paradise. This is also a rainbow palette. This is definitely a brighter one. It is much brighter than some of these other palettes I'm showing you. You've got bright green, bright pink, yellow, purple. I love this quite a bit. I know a lot of people don't love the Ace Beaute formula. I will say that these shimmers, they're a bit chunky. They definitely require a wet brush, and the mattes are a little bit powdery, but I don't mind. Again, for colorful eyeshadows, you know, I just tap off my brush and it works just fine. As you can tell, I have hit pan on this palette, which is rare for me for colorful eyeshadows, but I really do love this one. I think it is great quality. I don't think this formula is as good as like the BH Cosmetics or the Juvia's. I still like it. Just something to keep in mind that the formula on this one is a little bit different, but I think that this is a really fun palette. And if you want like a very bright, colorful palette, I definitely would say this would be the one to get. You know, as I mentioned, some of these are a bit more subdued. They're not super neon, but they're still colors, which I really, really like. I kind of like it all when it comes to eyeshadow. Sometimes I want a neutral look, sometimes I want like a neon look, and sometimes I want something in between. So I really think with all of these palettes, I can definitely achieve that. Alrighty, that is it for this video. Those are my top 10 colorful palettes. Let us know what yours are. I think formula-wise, I would definitely say that Juvia's and BH Cosmetics are the best formulas out of these, but I really do love all of them. And I think it's nice to have some variety if you like colorful eyeshadow. So yeah, let us know your favorite colorful eyeshadow palettes, and I will link those other videos if you want to hear about my favorite neutral palettes or half colorful, half neutral palettes. That is it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.